Good morning. Good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Valerie Castro in for Savannah Sellers. We have a possible deal. Hollywood's major media companies and the Writers Guild have reached a tentative agreement that could end the months-long writers' strike. In a message to its members, the WGA called the potential deal, quote, exceptional.
Now, the deal comes after 5 straight days of negotiations. Those talks resumed last week with major industry executives at the table. If the union membership votes to approve the deal, it will end one of the longest walkouts in entertainment history. Thousands of screenwriters first hit the picket lines nearly 150 days ago after contract negotiations with the studios failed. Entertainment journalist and pop culture expert Brian Balthazar is keeping tabs on it all. Joins us now with the latest. Brian, good morning. So first of all, what do we know about this tentative deal?
Well, it's really interesting. We are finding after 5 days of intense negotiations, they're saying that it has some meaningful gains and protections on all of the fronts, and that network executives, 4 of the big ones, were in attendance for many of these days to kind of loosen up the logjam. Now, what we do know is that picketing, they say, can stop for the Guild, but people can continue to picket for SAG-AFTRA's strike. And what will happen next is they will go over the final contract language. They're not releasing any of the details of this deal yet until they get that worked out. And then they will draft up a memorandum of the agreement. And then at that point, the Writers Guild West Coast Board and the East Coast Council will then vote on whether it's prepared and proper to then bring to the membership to meet, discuss, and then subsequently vote. So we're not there yet, but this is the most promising space that we've been in thus far.
And Brian, now that a possible agreement has been reached, what happens next? Is there anything that goes into production immediately?
Well, it's going to take a little bit of time for some things to gear up, but the most likely productions to get quickly started are the talk shows, because many of them, as you've reported on this program, were ready to go last week. And in fact, we're going to go until the solidarity of the unions really shut those down. So the talk shows will be the first things you'll notice, but other things are going to take a little time to staff up and get started.
And Brian, I mean, the feeling is we're still not going to see most stuff come back until the actors' strike is done. So let's talk about that one. Is there a feeling that once the writers' deal is done, we will see the actors return to the bargaining table to try and get a deal there?
Right. Well, in fact, in reaction to this, SAG-AFTRA did release a statement saying that they're looking forward to the AMPTP coming back to the table to discuss, because they've been at somewhat of a standstill. And as you mentioned, there's only so much you can do without the performers. So they've been watching to see how these negotiations go, and they'll be looking to see what these deal points are and see which one of those will help, inform their negotiations with the studios as well. But it's going to take a while still before that to get worked out.
And Brian, the sticking points with the actors do have a little bit of overlap with the writers, right?
Absolutely, particularly when it comes to the use of artificial intelligence. In the case of the writers, they wanted to make sure that artificial intelligence wasn't being used to write scripts for them. And in other cases, for the actors, they wanted to make sure that artificial intelligence wasn't being used to harness their own performances to generate other performers or other acting performances based on theirs. So there's some establishing parameters that will be made there. And then, of course, residuals for streaming. That's going to be a big one. And we'll be looking to see what this deal has and what it could be used to apply to the SAG-AFTRA deal.
And both of those issues are issues we haven't really had to see dealt with in previous contract negotiations because they're both so new. That's part of the reason this is such a long process. Brian Balthazar, Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Turning now to Capitol Hill, where House Republicans remain divided over the federal spending budget.
Time is running out for lawmakers to reach an agreement on government spending. If Congress can't reach that deal by the end of the week, the government will shut down on October 1st. That's Sunday. President Biden now ramping up his messaging, calling on Republicans to find a way around their political stalemate.
If the government shuts down, that means members of Congress, members of the U.S. military are going to have to continue to work and not get paid. A government shutdown could impact everything from food safety to cancer research to Head Start programs for children. Funding the government is one of those basic responsibilities of Congress. And it's time for Republicans to start doing the job America elected them to do.
Thousands of federal employees are at risk of being furloughed if the government shuts down, and financial experts fear a government closure could strike a blow to an already fragile economy.
NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ali Vitale joins us now with the details. Ali, good morning to you. Thanks for being with us. House Republican leaders met over the weekend to discuss a potential move forward with the shutdown, but little progress was made. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy is now considering a 45-day extension of federal spending, but not all House GOP members are on board. Let's take a listen.
if Speaker McCarthy ultimately allows a deal to pass with Democratic votes, would you support ousting him from the Speaker's chair?
That would be something I would look strongly at, ma'am. If we do away with our duty that we said we were going to do. They're all talking about this promise that he made with Biden a year ago. With Biden a year ago. What about the promise we made to the American public that we were going to be responsible Americans? Ma'am, we are going to be governing over a pile of rubble if we're not careful.
So, Allie, what needs to happen this week among Republicans to avoid a shutdown? Does McCarthy need to have the help of Democrats to pass anything, and what is the risk?
Look, the risk is exactly what we heard from Congressman Burchett there on another network over the weekend. The idea that government funding is so squarely tied to McCarthy's future ability to, frankly, just keep his job. The way that we're seeing Republicans talk about each other, this is not anyone other than House Republicans negotiating against themselves effectively. We're watching McCarthy over the weekend try to float a 30-day continuing resolution, a 45-day continuing resolution. And all that really means is he's just trying to buy some time, trying to get past the September 30th deadline so the government doesn't shut down, and then, of course, try to make good on some of the spending promises that he made to the most right flank of his conference. What's at odds here is the fact that many of those right-wing members, I'm thinking about people like Congressman Matt Gaetz, have said they will never sign a continuing resolution, which means they're not here to help McCarthy extend the clock. Frankly, they're not here to help McCarthy at all. And it really does leave him at an impasse. Will he look to his left and try to pick up some moderate members on the Democratic side that could allow him to glide this through on a bipartisan track? Certainly, that would put him closer in line with what the Senate in bipartisan fashion wants to do, which is avoid a shutdown, but it would really endanger him with the rest of his conference. And you would most likely see in the immediate aftermath of that a motion to vacate or fire the Speaker from his job.
So, Allie, Democrats in the Senate, they're already preparing for a temporary funding measure as House Republicans scramble for this last-minute deal. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, he's the one leading that push, looking to hold a test vote tomorrow. What more do we know about this? I mean, what, if anything, can the Senate do here?
Looking to hold a test vote on this, and this is really Schumer starting the clock on his side of the building, because there will also be some procedural hurdles that he has to get over that'll take some time. I mean, I've asked Speaker McCarthy this multiple times. We're all talking about the September 30th deadline and the House having to meet that. Yes, but also anything that the House passes has to go to the Senate. The Senate will inevitably make changes and then send it back to the House. All of that is a pretty lengthy process. We know that this isn't a town that typically moves quickly. So while the House is trying to sort of get out of its circular firing squad, what we're watching Senator Schumer do is start the clock on his side of the building, and he gets to do that with bipartisan support. Senator Mitch McConnell, the top Republican in that chamber, has said he doesn't want to go to a shutdown. Here's what'll be interesting about that. There are a handful of Republicans on the rightmost flank on the Senate side who have tried in the past to give their House counterparts some leverage here. That's something that they've really struggled with, and it hasn't helped House Republicans yet. But we'll see if Senate Republicans continue to back them up, and that could also stretch this process out.
And, Allie, while we have you, let's talk about the indictment of Senator Bob Menendez. He's set to hold a press conference later today to address those bribery charges against him. What can we expect to see and hear from that?
Yeah, Valerie, as if we didn't have enough to focus on Capitol Hill, you've got the House trying to avoid a shutdown. They're starting on their impeachment inquiry this week. And then we have these new charges against Senator Bob Menendez of New Jersey. Look, not the first time we've seen him face corruption charges. In his last re-election cycle, this was a front and center issue. He did then what he's doing now, which is stepping down from his chairmanship atop the Foreign Relations Committee. That's not necessarily letting off enough steam, though. You've got Democratic senators like John Fetterman saying they think he should resign. At this point, Fetterman is the only fellow senator saying that, but we'll be waiting to see, of course, if there are more. And I'll just preempt you guys and say I'm happy to stick around for the Taylor Swift segment, since I was very, very keenly watching football, as I always do on Sunday, but excited to see Taylor with her signature red lip at the Chiefs game.
Exactly. Your worlds collided there.
Perfect. Allie Vitale, thanks so much.
Thousands of additional members of the United Auto Workers Union are expected to join the picket lines this morning. Union leaders say it is a result of stalled talks between two of the three national automakers and the union. NBC News correspondent Jesse Kirsch is in Michigan with the latest.
Still no agreements, but the UAW says it is closer to a new contract with Ford than it is with the other two automakers. The union writing, in part, quote, "Our pressure on Ford is starting to pay off." And while Ford just reached a new agreement with the Canadian Auto Workers Union, it says when it comes to the UAW negotiations, more work still needs to be done. The union, though, striking a different tone when it comes to General Motors and Stellantis. The union president saying in part they, quote, are going to need some serious pushing. And so the union has now expanded its strike to all parts distribution facilities for those two companies. The companies have criticized union leadership. And all this is unfolding as the 2024 presidential spotlight falls on the UAW labor dispute. President Biden says tomorrow he will join the picket line in Michigan. And on Wednesday, former President Donald Trump, he's expected to speak to workers in this state. All of this coming as we're possibly just days away from seeing the impact on consumers more directly. Because parts distribution facilities are being blocked up, essentially, by these strikes for GM and Stellantis. One dealership group telling me, for example, they've stocked up on high-demand parts like brake pads. But if you need something like an engine, that could become tricky to find. And that dealership group estimating that it could be just days before we see an impact as a result of this. And it's not clear what kind of stockpiles the companies have right now in terms of parts to get out to dealerships still. So it's not clear how long things could seem normal before we start seeing those impacts. But again, that one dealership group telling me that it could be just days. Back to you.
All right, Jesse Kirsch, thank you.
This morning, we're getting new insight into the 2024 presidential election. A new NBC News poll shows major concerns for both President Biden and Republican frontrunner former President Trump.
According to the poll, 3/4 of voters say they are concerned about President Biden's age and mental fitness, while nearly 2/3 have concerns about the multiple trials that former President Trump faces. For more, we're joined by NBC News senior political editor Mark Murray. Mark, good to have you with us. So what more does this new poll tell us about all the voter concerns right now?
Yeah, Joe, this poll shows a very kind of gloomy forecast for the 2024 presidential election. And in addition to those worries and concerns that voters have about both President Biden and former President Donald Trump, our poll ends up showing, Joe Biden's approval rating is just at 41%, while the favorable rating for Trump is at 35%. So tough numbers for both candidates. And as you just ended up showing, the general election is deadlocked at 46% each for Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Very consistent with most of the polls end up having, looking 13 months ahead to the general election.
Mark, we know it's not all bad news for former President Trump, despite nearly 2/3 of voters polled saying they were concerned over Trump's pending trials. His lead over fellow Republican presidential hopefuls is actually growing. How do you make sense of that? Help us here.
Yeah. And so, as you mentioned, 62% of all voters end up having concerns about Donald Trump's multiple criminal trials. But that 70% of Republican voters, or nearly 70%, say they aren't concerned. And so there is a disconnect there where you end up having Democrats and independents concerned, but most Republican voters not. And as you mentioned, his lead has gone up to 43 points over Ron DeSantis. It was 29 points in June, according to our poll. Now it's 43, and that comes after his latest indictment in Fulton County, Georgia, from last month, as well as him skipping the first Republican debate and also skipping the second one that comes on Wednesday.
So we saw how President Biden matches up with Trump right now. As of now, how does the president match up with other potential Republican opponents in the general election?
Yeah, against Ron DeSantis, President Biden has a 1-point lead, well within the margin of error. But against Nikki Haley, the former United Nations ambassador and former governor of Georgia, she holds a 5-point lead over President Biden. And as our pollsters put it to us, Haley isn't as well known as DeSantis and Donald Trump. So she is kind of serving almost as the generic Republican who isn't all that well defined at this stage, but it's kind of more a look at where President Biden is with most voters right now.
All right. Mark Murray breaking it down for us. Thank you so much, Mark.
And those growing concerns about the next presidential leader also call into question the future of each party. On this week's Meet the Press, Kristen Welker sat down with South Carolina Congressman James Clyburn to discuss what the path forward looks like for Democrats.
Hi there, Joe and Valerie. This week on Meet the Press, I spoke with Democratic Congressman Jim Clyburn of South Carolina. Take a look at what he had to say when I asked him if Vice President Harris is the future of the Democratic Party.
I see her as a part of that future, absolutely.
Is she the future, though? Is she the future of the Democratic Party?
Oh, she could very well be. I think she is running a very good campaign. Her speech last night was great, and I look to her as a successor to this president. But I also know the history of that as well. It's not a given. You don't automatically move up. She'll have to compete going forward with whoever may have dreams and aspirations, and I think she will acquit herself well.
Well, I know that you are saying you don't look at the polls too much, but our poll does show her favorability is actually lower than President Biden and even than former President Trump. Why do you think she's not resonating more with voters? What do you think the issue is?
Because when you compare the first woman of color and first woman to be Vice President of the United States and compare that to all of the history before, you will get that. I think that during this campaign, she will demonstrate, as she did in that hall last night, that she knows exactly what she's doing. She has the capacity and the capability to be President of the United States if called upon to do so.
And you can see my full interview with him and a lot more at meetthepress.com. You can also get more Meet the Press here on NBC News Now every weekday at 4 p.m.
Kristen Welker, thanks so much.
Tropical storm Ophelia created a total washout this weekend for millions up and down the East Coast. The storm made landfall in North Carolina Saturday at near hurricane strength, bringing high winds, heavy rain, and flooding. And this morning, while many are just starting the cleanup process, it doesn't look like the wet weather is finished just yet.
Now let's get a closer look at what to expect as the remnants of Ophelia continue to hit the Northeast with soggy weather.
Meteorologist Michelle Grossman joins us with your morning News Now forecast. Michelle, good morning.
Good morning. Great to see you guys. And yeah, it is another soggy start. We're looking at heavy rain bands, some breezy conditions, another raw day. It's a slow improvement. We're going to see that once again tomorrow. And then finally by Wednesday, we're going to be drying out. But this is what it looks like right now on radar. Lots of green. That's the rain shield. Even some yellows, reds, oranges. That's showing us where heavy rain is falling. So we're seeing those bands. Ophelia, or what's left of Ophelia, is right off the New Jersey coast. So it's going to be moving to the east over the Atlantic as we go throughout the day. But as we go throughout the day, we're expecting periods of rain continuing. Also those breezy conditions. So you need your umbrella as you head out. Gale warning still in effect. Also some minor coastal flooding in those areas that are prone to flooding. Not a whole lot of rain expected in addition to what we got over the weekend, but still could see up to an inch in some spots in those heavier pockets where you get that banding setting up. Otherwise, we're looking at a quarter inch, a half inch, just really nuisance spawning in poor drainage areas. So Ophelia, the remnants of Ophelia does continue. Also looking at the chance for some heavy rain, we have a front that's going to be draped over the area. It's also a sea breeze kind of increasing the moisture from the Gulf to the Caribbean. And we could see rainfall rates of 2 to 3 inches per hour. So several spots across the country looking at rain as we go throughout the day. Then as we go throughout midweek, we're looking at repeat rounds of heavy rainfall, also a flood risk with all that rainfall we'll see as we go throughout the next couple of days. Out to the west, we have an atmospheric river, so we're looking at anywhere from 2 even up to 3 inches of rain. You can see that rain falling right now. Still seeing some yellows too out west, and that's because we're looking at some really gusty winds, some really heavy rain because of that atmospheric river. And that's what it is. It's a big area of low pressure kind of picking this moisture up and dropping it into the Pacific Northwest from Washington to Oregon into Northern California. Lots of moisture and those windy conditions. But where you see these reds, oranges, yellows, that's corresponding to an inch, 2 inches, 3 inches. So this is a lot of rain. It rained there yesterday. We're seeing that once again today. Remember, we have some burn scar areas, so we could see some mudslides, risk of flash flooding as well. That is out west. Then we're looking at the deep south, the chance for some strong to severe storms. Houston, Victoria, Del Rio. We could see this later on today as we kind of get that daytime heating going. I mentioned Florida also seeing the chance for some strong to severe storms and heavy rain falling there over the next few days, even up to 2, 3 inches from Jacksonville to Daytona Beach, Melbourne, Fort Myers, and also Miami. Not great vacation weather if you do have vacation plans there. Then as we go throughout the rest of today, sunny and warm through the middle of the country. Some showers falling in the upper Midwest. Shouldn't see many storms there. Looks like to be more of a nuisance of some showers. That heavy rain out west. We are warm in portions of the Southwest. Temperatures into the 90s, and there's that rain falling in the deep south. Then by Wednesday, rain does continue, cool and wet in the Pacific Northwest. We're dry in the Southwest. We're going to be warm once again, not as warm as we have been, but still temperatures into the 90s, into the triple digits in parts of Arizona. We're going to dry it out in portions of the South in Texas. But look at the Gulf Coast. That heavy rain does continue, and that's why we're concerned about flooding over the next couple of days. That heavy rain still falling in parts of Florida, and we're looking at that upper Midwest into the Ohio Valley, looking at some rain as well. Some sunshine in the Northeast. We're going to dry it out there finally on Wednesday. But look what happens as we go by Friday. We're looking at another front that's going to come through. That's going to bring the chance of rain back into the forecast by Wednesday or by Thursday and also Friday. So coastal rain from the mid-Atlantic into the Carolinas, the Southeast. Texas heat returns on Friday. We're looking at lots of sunshine. It's going to be dry, but it's going to be warm. And then mountain snow. We haven't talked about this in a while, but that could happen there today in the Pacific Northwest in the highest elevations. We're going to see a mix today, but by later on this week, by Friday, we're looking at some mountain snow. So something to keep in mind as we go throughout the rest of the work week. Also, we're talking about the tropics. We have Tropical Storm Philippe. It looks like it's going to stay out into the Atlantic, which is good news. We have a big area of high pressure called the Bermuda High. It's going to kind of spin around that. So that's one storm system. Also watching another low coming off the African coast. That could cause some problems. We're still days away, maybe a week away. So we're going to be watching that as we go throughout time. So really 3 areas with what's left over from Ophelia bringing that rain still. But we'll keep our eye on Philippe as well.
Right. I feel like I'm living in the Pacific Northwest again.
I know. It's been days and days, right?
Yeah, no, I'm having Seattle flashbacks. Thanks, Michelle. Appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.